My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California.
It is 10:52 a.m. on Sunday, April 27, 2025, and you will see the images inside of the defendant and the demon-possessed person, Tracy Banks's apartment. Engineered light in a thick bar of a long, thick bar of engineered light is on the inside of her apartment on the ceiling. That has nothing to do with the product of sunlight, light that's coming from the sun. That is the light that's covering everything outside, while all of the gang stalkers that are senior citizens like Tracy Banks, that are gang stalkers like Tracy Banks, are living and pacing around monitoring me while I remain inside of Tracy Banks's apartment, where the fake sun is, as you see, the engineered light that has nothing to do with sunlight. It's an indicator that the fake sun is outside of the apartment, however, and that's also an obvious indicator with regard to prosecuting all the other defendants that are at what is Woodside Senior Apartments. This is relevant to the environment where Linda Reyes and the demons that engage in federal group stalking and monitoring by admission in concert with the city of Ontario conducted a quote-unquote inspection under the same lit circumstances at the same facilitating venue, at the same amongst the same defendants in units 33 through 64 who are going to prison. It's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. And at, again, 10:50 a.m., Tracy Banks, who is engaged in witchcraft, who is spiritually attacking, who was monitoring, obsessed with me, monitoring me while I'm in my sleep, for example, is molesting with engineered light that fills the apartment, just like she's doing, as you witnessed on video, on a cloudy day, and the apartment is filled with gray-colored light. This is what she's doing when the fake sun is over her apartment, where it remains, as you are aware of. You can see as I'm documenting at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and the fake sun is over her front door, like when I'm documenting at 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 p.m. The fake sun is remaining at Tracy Banks's front door, where I am pointing the camera either to my left, above my head, or to my right, where the fake sun is remaining at Tracy Banks's apartment, where she is a sex offender that's obsessed with literally touching my body. And this is what a person that practices witchcraft, a person that is demon possessed, that is gang stalking you, does so by merely stalking with light, where that which is not the product of any sort of sunlight, where they are engaged in what is monitoring you and also sexually violating you by touching you pursuant to that surveillance system, in concert with a whole bunch of other demons that are pacing around as the psychopaths that they are, while your body is molested with that which is light that's manifesting out of nowhere, and a demon is relying on a door opening and closing in order for you in your mind to relate the creation of that light that's filling an environment where you are present with the activity that they're engaging in. But this is nothing other than a demon-possessed person who is exiting the apartment at approximately 10:50 a.m. and it is filling with what is bright orange colored engineered light. It is as impossible as the apartment filling with engineered light on a cloudy day. None of it is the product of sunlight, and it is the entity that is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring under a fake sun that's remaining over all of the equally pathetic old people who are obsessed with my genitalia, who are obsessed with molesting my person, who are obsessed with literally every time I blink my eyes, every time I inhale and exhale, the moment that I fall asleep and wake up, everything that I'm doing inside of this apartment, which which is again the documentation of all of them. They are obsessively consumed with my prosecuting and exposing them as the demon-possessed entity that they are, engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring, which is the matter of public corruption that the government is engaging in concert and reliant upon the elderly population, collecting Social Security, collecting unemployment, relying on government assistance to pay their rent at Woodside, and also for AVANATH employees who are going to prison collecting a paycheck while engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. They're going to prison, they're going to mental asylums, and they're going to federal prison with regard to the demons in units 33 through 64. Tracy Banks is molesting my person while she's walking out of the apartment at 10:50 a.m. where the sun would never be present in the natural environment over her apartment, let alone, as I've already documented on video, at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 p.m. and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 p.m. Every single hour during the day, I have documented the fake sun over Tracy Banks's apartment. She is a violent sex offender. She is a delusional psychopath. She is engaged in what is monitoring in my sleep. She waits until she is monitoring in my sleep. So this is again the demons that are engaging in spiritually attacking me, waking me up when I'm in the sleep state, so that she is then pacing in and out of her apartment where engineer light is molesting me and she's walking out, because she is more consumed with monitoring as a witch that is consumed with some hollow sense of you're not engaging in any actual retaliation when I'm documenting you and embarrassing you about the fact that you are a government collecting, demon possessed, overly sex senior citizen that is engaged in what is driving around in a used Mercedes Benz that you cannot afford to maintain, while you are gang stalking your daughter that is prosecuting you on the world stage. And you're going to a mental asylum for the rest of your life for being such a delusional psychopath and an unprosecuted pedophile. Just because I'm prosecuting now at 40 doesn't mean that you're getting away with all the pedophilia that you've been engaged in for in concert with your sex partners, many of your sex partners, like Tommy Allen Banks. You're not getting away with any of it. It's called reaping what you sow. A lot of times that doesn't happen immediately. This is what Tracy Banks is consumed with, however, while she is walking out of the apartment, obviously engaged in the pattern of conduct under the fake sun, engineer light on her ceiling in her apartment, framing her front door in her apartment. The same environment, by the way, that's happening when she's walking out at 7 in the morning and the engineer light is framing the front door when it's supposedly, again, before the fake sun rises. This is the environment where demons are stalking. Stalking is prevalent in that environment that has nothing to do with sunlight. This is relevant to surveillance. It is all state action. And this demon walks out of the apartment while after she is spiritually attacking and is aware this is a demon that's monitoring. So while I'm on the couch, I have not physically gotten up. I have not addressed her or anything. This demon knows that I am awake. This is when she is intentionally exiting the apartment. Again, this psychopath paces in doing so. She's always walking to the front door, opening it as though she forgot something. She's walking back and forth in the apartment. And then she is monitoring, pacing and doing so while engineer light fills the apartment. This sex offender is always obsessed with touching me. She's been doing so since I was a child. Now she's doing so while she's a gang stalker, monitoring with the people of the state, molesting me through engineered light. All right, so this is what she's doing while she's exiting at 10:50 a.m. The entity is maintaining the fake sun as a matter of documentation. All of the defendants in units 33 through 64 are going to prison based on the body of evidence, which is showing the sun over me at this apartment complex at all hours of the day from 7 a.m. until after 6 p.m. The documentation in images and in video, which are already published, is showing the impossibility that the sun would be during all hours of daytime over Tracy Banks's apartment, where the city of Ontario, the removal of Paul Leon is thereby established as well for gang stalking as a mayor, as a public official, in concert with the local government, and doing so with the civilian population who are also under that fake sun that remains at all hours of the day, including while the fake sun is covered up. Remember, when you have the supernatural, it's not weather, it's malice of the entity that knows that it's being exposed. And also the engineer light is present at nightfall. That's how you know that the fake sun is indeed nothing other than a stage and ornament over identifying the demons that are surrounding me while they're gang stalking. Those demons that are physically surrounding in units 33 to 64, their prize is prison. All right, and their prize for gang stalking with such an unwise and imprudent defendant and a sex offender that can't control themselves like Tracy Banks is federal prison. All right, everything she's doing is incriminating all of the co-defendants who are equally reliant on government assistance, and they're all losing that government assistance in all 144 units at Woodside Senior Apartments while they are gang stalking in concert with AVANATH, like the inspection that was documentation of federal group stalking and monitoring, like I captured on video, which is evidence that is published on the video of the internet that is occurring on, go ahead and remind you about that video evidence where you will see the fake sun in its zenith over the top of my head at Woodside Senior Apartments on what is April 25th, 2025. And again, Tracy Banks, that's exiting the apartment at 10:54 a.m., does so under the fake sun. And this is substantially similar to what I'm documenting on April 25th, 2025, where Linda Reyes is gang stalking while the fake sun is over the apartment. And Tracy Banks is pacing in and out today at 10:50 a.m., where the fake sun is in the same position it would be where Linda Reyes is gang stalking on video at 10:33 a.m. in that video, 10:25 to 10:33 a.m., where the fake sun is present, the engineer light is present. The engineer light that's on the living room floor is not light that's going to touch my person, but this is what's happening, the supernatural, while the apartment and that light that's on the living room floor also is not sunlight. But nonetheless, the entity is molesting my body while the demon, the gang stalker Tracy Banks, exits the apartment, monitoring and doing so and engaging in facilitation of monitoring, which is all state action, in doing so with the intent to harass, torment, sexually violate, and psychologically torture. That's the purpose of monitoring with engineered light, while you were also being documented for that unprecedented system of, for that unprecedented act of gang stalking, which is the government's engagement in keeping you under surveillance. The video documentation showing Linda Reyes gang stalking is what's going to be juxtaposed with regard to the entity gang stalking under the fake sun that's still present as I've already shown in documentation. What you're looking at, RGS pacing in front of her apartment under the 11 a.m. fake sun, when you see the Ontario Police Department gang stalking at 11:40 a.m. under that fake sun that's over the same apartment building, when you're looking at the entity gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport under the 12 p.m. fake sun, when you're looking at them gang stalking at every hour of the day, where this fake sun is remaining over the same exact apartment, Tracy Banks's apartment. When she's exiting at 10:50 a.m., she is doing so with the sexually perverted motive to molest my body. She's doing so with the psychopathic delusional effort to engage in some method of retaliation. This is, again, a terrorist delusional mindset. When you're being prosecuted for everything that you're engaging in, when you're monitoring and keeping evidence about your domestic terrorism under surveillance with the state, this is what is inspiring criminal acts of retaliation, which are a threat to my life, my safety, and my well-being. And it is state action. Every defendant is going to be prosecuted for what Tracy Banks is engaging in at 10:50 a.m. while she is in the apartment and engineered light fills her apartment, while she is in the apartment and she paces on the way out of the apartment, monitoring and doing so, while she is also aware of the fact that she is being heavily and diligently documented for engaging in what is the sex offense of gang stalking. It's currently 11:04 a.m. The fake sun remains over Tracy Banks's apartment, and this is, remember, in the video captured at 10:25 a.m. 10:25 a.m. on April 25th, 2025. Remember, in the course of that video, while you're looking at the engineered light, the fake sun, the engineered light that's on the ceiling inside of Tracy Banks, which remains right now, in the course of that video, while that supernatural environment was present, remember, in that video, it all disappeared. The fake sun was covered up. The engineered light inside of the apartment that was orange colored, because the engineered light remains. It's present at nightfall when also the fake sun is not seen. In the course of that video, that engineered light on the floor, the engineered light on the ceiling dissolved away. The engineered light remains inside of that apartment, different hues of the same impossible light activity. Remember, the engineered light, the sunlight that you are attributing from the sun, is not natural sunlight. It's not the sun, nor is that sunlight. It's the environment where surveillance is underway. It's the environment where surveillance of a demonic nature is underway by a population of demons that are not secretly engaging in what is keeping American citizens under surveillance anymore, as I've been exposing the criminal conduct that California is engaging in. Because you are aware of that, because the sun that's over people at Disneyland right now in California and Orange County, the sun that's over you in Florida 3 hours ahead of us is not the same sun that's over Tracy Banks's apartment. that I've already captured at every hour of the day from 7 a.m. until after 6 p.m. That is documentation of what is an inevitable prosecution of not only the pedophile and the domestic terrorist Tracy Banks, who is also going to be diagnosed and prosecuted by that evidence. It is the same with regard to the entity that is gang stalking as an apartment complex, as a local government, the city of Ontario, as a state, the state of California. The entity is doing so with impunity and with knowledge of the fact that it is being documented. So those images of that engineered light, this is the environment where Linda Reyes is indeed gang stalking, and the impossibility of that light would be on the ceiling. And not only that, you see that light on the ceiling on April 25th at 10:25 a.m. in that video disappear. That's pursuant to knowledge of documentation, not because sunlight ever appears on the ceiling, and that the sun being covered up on a cloudy day is going to result in sunlight on the inside of your dwelling to appear and disappear. That's light activity. That's what that's called. This is the same circumstances where Linda Reyes is gang stalking on video. Linda Reyes is a gang stalker that's employed by AVANATH, and she is being systematically enabled to keep an American citizen under surveillance inside of an apartment where she is gang stalking as an employee of that third-party company. That's why she's going to prison, and this is relevant to Linda Reyes's necessary federal imprisonment while the gang stalker whom she's monitoring with, who she's engaging in sexual violence and psychological torture with, Tracy Banks, and all the rest of the defendants at Woodside, are under an idle fake sun, which is remaining over this specific apartment at all hours of the day, like the documentation shows. Okay, the documentation of Linda Reyes gang stalking on April 25th at 10:33 a.m. in that video. The video stands from 10:25 to 10:33 a.m. and in that video, the fake sun that is there is remaining. It is just covered up in that environment, and that's evident through what is the engineered light that's on the inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, on the floor and on the ceilings, as it's covered up at the same time that the fake sun is then covered up with clouds, but none of that is sunlight. Okay, in the same way, while the fake sun is shining, opening up the front door has nothing to do with the light that fills that apartment. That's not sunlight either. It's also not sunlight that's reflecting off of the windshields, creating light, shooting into Tracy Banks' apartment, where people's bodies create shadows moving on the interior of her apartment, living room walls, as I've documented that. My shadow appearing on the walls, that's not sunlight either. That's not the product of sunlight, nor is it sunlight that's covering all of the property, the sidewalk outside included, where I'm walking in it and you can see two of my shadows adjacent to each other. That's not the product of sunlight, and it's not sunlight that's touching all over everything. This is exposing the specific environment, which is your introduction to the spiritual realm if you're ignorant about the spiritual realm. And this is the demonic. It's a demonic imitation of the natural environment. It is the work of Satan, and demons are roaming around, pacing like the exposed, closeted psychopaths that they actually are, which they never wanted to be known. And it's also known that they're engaged in criminal conduct, surveillance, and it's government conduct as well, because the police departments, the sheriff's departments, the government itself, for example, the city of Ontario, is also not ignorant about this environment where they are engaging in activity creation, which is also not coincidentally happening. It's pursuant to a demonic system of monitoring, which is surveillance that's conducted by the government. And I've documented that from city to city. All of that is known while Linda Reyes is on video on April 25th at 10:25 a.m. It's the same circumstances, and this is remaining the same exact environment at every other hour after 10 a.m. where Tracy Banks is exiting today at 10:50 a.m. So I want to make sure with regard to what I've already documented before, what's happening right now, because it's already on the record, I'm documenting more of the same. And I'm also going to publish that in order to remind you about what you're already privy to, what happened with regard to the admission of federal group stalking and monitoring by AVANATH and the city of Ontario, who are engaged in what is gang stalking with the occupants, which is already the supported allegations of federal group stalking and monitoring. The government cannot keep an American citizen under surveillance by monitoring, which is demonic, without the population. And that is exposing the population as a bunch of demons who are engaged in what is monitoring. Monitoring is activity creation in that specific environment, and that is what is relevant to what's over your head on the East Coast, for example. When you are in New York and you're looking up above you in the sky space today, at 2 p.m., it's 2:10 p.m. The sun that's over you at 2:10 p.m. is not the same sun that I'm capturing over Tracy Banks' apartment at the same time. It is the P.O.C. It is, and I'm stating that because right now the current time is 11:10 a.m., 11:11 a.m., and we are not in the same environment. It's not the sun. All right, this is P.O.C. and the entities engaged in the same chicanery that you see Linda Reyes gang stalking me in on April 25th. The fake sun is there, and that's why you document, because Satan is a liar. Satan is also very highly unintelligent. If you haven't noticed that, this is why he is resorting to using high school graduates, resorting to people that do not engage in that, are incapable of exercising logic and reasoning, while they are being surrounded with what is tangible evidence, which is also proving their spiritual darkness, their reliance on gang conduct. Gang conduct does not create factual information. It does not create what is reliable, tangible evidence. It merely creates what is nothing other than a shared reality that is nothing other than an illusion created by the demons themselves. That is the prosecution of federal group stalking and monitoring, exposing demons who are engaging in what is a demonic pattern of conduct, which is psychologically harmful to the targeted individual that is being gang stalked in that specific environment, which defies nature. Okay, so capturing the engineer light, the state of the environment outside. Let me be clear. Let me put it this way. The engineer light that's inside of Tracy Banks' apartment is direct evidence regarding the fake sun that is outside of her apartment, regardless of the fake sun being covered up seconds later, because Satan and all of Satan's demons are monitoring the evidence in real time. They're all going to prison and they're all going to mental asylums while they're engaged in federal stalking, monitoring the evidence. This is P.O.C. And this is, again, Tracy Banks. This is a high school graduate's imprudent behavior, molesting me with engineer light, and then being documented, and all of her co-defendants going to prison and mental asylums right along with her. The mayor is being removed from office. The gang stalking police department is being removed from position. They're being removed from law enforcement. Many of them, a large percentage of them, going to prison, as I've documented them, if they've been engaged in kidnapping, and they are not escaping that. I have their names, their information, more beyond what I've documented is already known. They are going to prison. That is inevitable, and that entity is going to be disbanded. The fire department's gang stalking. All these facts are already known, while Tracy Banks, a demon that lacks self-control, molests with engineer light, and the evidence inside of her apartment, and that occurrence, which again, I'm not exaggerating about anything about the P.O.C. So when I say I'm being molested with engineered light, those aware of the documentation know exactly what it is that I'm referencing, and it's pointing to the P.O.C. that is underway, and all of that pattern of conduct is also relevant while Tracy Banks engages in that, very highly imprudent, while you are a defendant in a federal case. But nonetheless, these are the demons that are being documented for federal group stalking and monitoring. It is 11:13 a.m. on April 27, 2025. The images of the fake sun evidence is captured, and what would be the fake sun evident while the bar of engineer light is on Tracy Banks' ceiling at 10:52 a.m. You will see the engineer light that is filling the inside, the crevices on the ceiling along the edges, like a highlighter that's filling the ceiling around the edges inside of the apartment and framing the front door. You will see that at 10:52 a.m. While I am capturing this podcast, literally, as I've shown you, as I speak to what the demons do, the environment rapidly changes. This is what the LAPD is doing while they're gang stalking me under a fake sun in Los Angeles at the same time of year as well, doing so while the fake sun is covered up with the same pattern of conduct, while the demons are always stalking with light. The fake sun is shown as and understood to be the indicator where surveillance is underway. It's not necessary to engage in that pattern of conduct. So while you're documenting it, the fake sun being covered up is an indication with regard to surveillance of the evidence, not an indication that they're not gang stalking. And the evidence is already capturing the fake sun at every single hour during the day over Tracy Banks's apartment. So it is an inevitable prosecution, and it's also an inevitable prosecution for obstruction of justice and the ongoing monitoring of evidence, which is a federal no-no. Okay, it's 11:15 a.m. This is P.O.C.
Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the
wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Alrighty, this is again the reality of what you're looking at here is a door cracked open, and this fanning out of light, this is engineered light. That's all impossible light activity. It has nothing to do with the actual sun and the door being open. This is demonic. It's as demonic as the light being above on the ceiling. This has nothing to do with the door being cracked open either. It remains at all hours of the day, going down the side of the wall. And framing on the floor. This light activity is occurring while you're looking at engineer light piercing through the peephole. None of this is sunlight, and this concentrated light that is fanning out into the depths of the apartment is impossible light activity, and it's also fanning into the apartment on the ceiling as well. And this is again when I crack the door open. This is the environment where the entity at moments ago at 10, like I documented on podcast, as I referenced the specific environment, referenced defendants like Linda Reyes, who are all going to prison. They're engaged in federal stalking. It's not changing the fact that they're going to federal prison. This is evidence revealing the pattern of the unnatural environment, legally referred to as the specific environment, being a direct indicator with regard to keeping the evidence, putting the gang stalkers in prison and mental asylums, putting them away for engaging what is documentation that is being kept under surveillance. It's not evidence that's going to keep any of the defendants out of prison. None of this is a natural environment in the first place that's relevant to understanding and recognizing where the P.O.C is underway and how the P.O.C is executed. Not only that, the entity is engaging in what is a real-time vacillation of that environment, meaning the engineer light that was a thick bar of light that was right here is no longer there, but engineer light remains. The engineer light remains. This is as supernatural as me opening up the front door and engineer light fans through on the floor and fans through on the ceiling. It's the same environment when Tracy Banks is at 7 in the morning walking out and the fake sun is not yet shining brightly over her apartment, where it remains at all hours of the day, like I stated. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. The fake sun is captured at every hour during the day over Tracy Banks's apartment. All right, that is speaking to the P.O.C. The environment inside of the apartment changes as I capture podcast, and that environment is supernatural. Sunlight from the sun outside is never creating the light activity that's inside, and no cloudy day or sunny day ever creates concentrated light coming through the peephole. It's not the product of sunlight either. And this engineer light that's fanning through on the floor, that is fanning through also on the ceiling above, while engineer light is at all times remaining on the ceiling, regardless of what side of the front door the fake sun is on. This is not sunlight. This is stalking with engineer light, and it is supernatural. And the concentrated, orange concentrated engineer light. I want you to hear City of Ontario. Again, that is Paul Leon's removal from office while the City of Ontario, in concert with the demon-possessed person over 55, is crossing path. An engineer light that fills the apartment, and they're walking in that engineer light. Okay, that's P.O.C, and that's actually a psychopath that was waiting on cue to engage in crossing paths with the Ontario Police Department. Okay, that's the entity that's gang stalking in concert with Tracy Banks, the same Ontario Police that's being disbanded, crossing path on Vine Avenue while the City of Ontario crosses path. That's amplified audible activity, while a psychopath that's monitoring my genitalia living at the venue under the fake sun that's directly over the apartment, and doing so again in an environment where none of this is the product of sunlight. That's where Ontario PD is gang stalking while Ontario International Airport crosses path, and the City of Ontario is surrounding the people of the state at Woodside Senior Apartments with evidence that's putting all of them in prison and mental asylums. Okay, so this is Paul Leon's criminal conduct. The City of Ontario, the local government, is used to engage in the elements of monitoring together. This is again the entity that is engaging in what is molesting my body with Tracy Banks while this demon paces in and out of the apartment, while engineer light activity creation presence in that environment is house surveillance surveillance is underway. And the entity is also keeping the evidence about their gang stalking tactics under surveillance, while a fake son is already on the record over me at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, where the city of Ontario is engaging in the same thing, stalking in commercial planes. The city of Ontario is gang stalking by the Ontario Police Department. The city of Ontario is gang stalking by the Ontario Fire Department, like I've documented. I've documented the city of Ontario gang stalking with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, 12:53 p.m. All right, 12:42 p.m. The city of Ontario gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department, literally at all hours of the day, while this fake sun remains over the same sky space, where you're witnessing the people of the state crossing path right here on the sidewalk. That's just one person, which is activity creation. They're all gang stalking inside of this apartment, where I want to be clear, this is the entity that has the same light source, which is directly over. And it is the subdued presence, nonetheless presence, which is not sunlight, and it's not sharing an environment that's naturally occurring at the same time in LA, where the Los Angeles Police Department, where under the corrupt leadership, as equally as corrupt as Mike Lorenz, Michael Moore, and Dominique Choi. These are the demons that are championing the being subject to the prosecution, where the state is gang stalking in the same exact supernatural environment. That's what is shared about the Ontario Police gang stalking and the Los Angeles Police gang stalking under a fake sun that is simultaneously, which is speaking to supernatural, simultaneously at the same time of year, at the same time, remaining over me while I'm documenting demons over 55 crossing path on the sidewalk. At the same time I open the door, that's a demon that's lurking in the path, waiting to engage in what is activity creation, while the airport is a means of amplified audible activity, and the demons gang stalking, lurking in the path, driving on Vine Avenue, incriminating all the demons in units 33 through 64. This is how the P.O.C. is just executed right now in this video. This is where Linda Reyes is gang stalking on April 25th, 2025 at 10:25 a.m. That video starts at 10:25 and ends at 10:33 a.m. and you will see the fake sun right here. This is where the fake sun is right now, and you all also know at 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, the fake sun is still right here, where the Ontario Police cross path in this video, the Ontario International Airport cross path in this video, the people of the state cross path in this video, with knowledge of the fact that I'm documenting them, and you are aware of what is their knowledge while they're still engaging with impunity federal group stalking and monitoring on video and on podcast, while I'm documenting them speaking to the worthiness of disbanding the Ontario Police, removing the Ontario International Airport, removing Paul Leon from office, putting Tracy Banks in a mental asylum, putting all her co-defendants in units 33 through 64 in prison and in mental asylums where they belong. Where psychopaths that engage in targeting one person together, that's where they belong. Okay, everybody at Woodside is losing their federal housing benefits while gang stalking is underway amongst the elderly, who are relying on the same government that's gang stalking with them to pay a percentage of their rent. It's 11:22 a.m. This is P.O.C. The entity is keeping this fake sun and the subdued fake sun, the inevitable presence of light activity, which is subdued, and it's only because I'm documenting. You've seen the engineer light reach into the depths of the apartment on another day when the demons had more confidence. The demons, nonetheless, are very short-sighted, very forgetful, and that's why I'm able to capture the fake sun on the next day and the day after that and last week, which remains relevant probative evidence. That is disbanding the police department for gang stalking, disbanding what is prosecuting the mayor's office that's gang stalking with the police department, removing Michael Gherkin, the chief that's gang stalking with the fire department, that I've documented at Woodside under the fake sun, which you know is here after 12 p.m. which is relevant to then again the gang stalking police. That is, you're juxtaposing this crime scene where you're looking at the supernatural environment where surveillance by demons is underway. The demons include the local government. That's what's relevant with the juxtaposed crime scene in Los Angeles, where LAPD uses a lot of money and manpower and kept me under surveillance, and I documented that as well. Both under the subdued fake sun, which is here, and you've also seen it when it's not subdued at all. You've seen it when engineer light is covering this door, and engineer light is piercing so concentrated that it's on the kitchen wall, and I'm documenting while I open the front door, the light coming through the peephole, moving across the wall. I've documented all of this in evidence already. This is an environment that is defying nature, while the police, while the airport, speaking to the national security threat that they are, and that's why you disband such kidnapping agencies such as the Ontario Police. They are always demonstrating in video, like they did now, not helping the people of the state. That's not helping for them to cross path, but this is what the entity is engaging in, as though it's some distraction from prosecuting Tracy Banks and every other gang stalker at Woodside. It's not. Linda Reyes is going to federal prison. As you see her crossing path on April 25th at 10:25 a.m. This is the same environment where the Ontario police are gang stalking, as you visually see them crossing path. This is what Linda Reyes is doing in concert with the Ontario police. She's going to federal prison, while her co-defendant very foolishly, like Tracy Banks, very foolishly against her, all of her co-defendants who she's incriminating. That's the same thing with the state, gang stalking with the people of the state. Understand how that criminal conduct works together. It is currently 11:25 a.m. where the entity is keeping the fake sun right here, like you've also seen well after 5 p.m., 5:57 in fact, where that same Ontario Police Department is flying over this same building, where that same fake sun that you see, it is subdued, and you've also seen it when it's not subdued at all and it's shining in all of its brilliance, where the demons are very highly unintelligent, not appreciating the fact that this is evidence going to be prosecuting them, the city, the state. The entity is engaging in what is keeping the fake sun at 5:57, where the same police department is exhibiting severe mental illness, flying in circles over the apartment building, while they are doing the same thing, keeping the evidence under surveillance. Engaging in very foolish criminal acts where demons lack self-control as you document them and as you reference them. So they arrive likely in helicopters, because that's what I documented on the day. I'll reference that video for you when they begin flying in helicopters, while I'm documenting the people of the state in Los Angeles, where the entity is protecting gang stalkers, that I give more of a focal point to. The more that the entity tries to protect any gang stalker, I will hone in on those gang stalkers and make sure that all of their information is exposed while I'm prosecuting them, especially while I remain subject to the threat of federal group stalking and monitoring, and the demons are trying to protect themselves and their reputations and their identities. That's entirely absurd. Okay, this is the purpose of federal group stalking, monitoring, and prosecution of a corrupt government, and disincentivizing the demon-possessed population, the people of the state, from acting with the government. All of your information will be exposed when you're gang stalking. You can anticipate that. It is currently 11:26 a.m. where that specific environment, where Tracy Banks is gang stalking with her co-defendants who are all over 55, monitoring together, doing so in an environment that defies nature. Also, while they are monitoring the evidence, that orange-colored engineered light that you're supposed to ignorantly acknowledge as sunlight is subdued now, while you're exposing the pattern of conduct. But the evidence is already on the record, where the fake sun's reflecting off of these vehicle windshields, where the engineered light is filling the apartment and it's creating the shadows on the inside of the apartment when the fake sun is still here after 2 p.m. In this video, which you're mindful of when you see the Ontario police gang stalking in that engineer light under that fake sun, and the Ontario International Airport gang stalking while that fake sun is over, and the people of the state gang stalking while that fake sun is over. You're not forgetful of the fact, rather, that the fake sun remains here, which is why you prosecute under the totality of circumstances. And the totality of circumstances dictate and prove that the entity is keeping the evidence about itself under surveillance. And they're very imprudent and unintelligent and woefully unprepared as a defendant for domestic terrorism in California and in the U.S. It is currently, again, 11:27 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, context regarding federal prison. Gang stalking with the Ontario police, who uses helicopter, crossing paths, sharing in the criminal elements of monitoring, that is engaging in the demonic system and the psychological torture of gang stalking with the police, is that which is resulting in federal prison for the people of the state. And this is what is underway while the demons use a Ontario police vehicle crossing path, driving south on Vine Avenue, while the fake sun is at the top of the front door of Tracy Banks, right above, and the engineer light fills the inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, and the amplified audible activity method is via the sound of what is impossible audible activity, because there's no planes taking off from Terminal 2 and Terminal 4 and creating any plane activity over Woodside Senior Apartments. This is an admission to creating maintaining the elements of monitoring by the airport that is maintained in the city of Ontario, while they are admittedly engaging in, through the creation of what is amplified plane activity, they are thereby admitting to hovering in the sky space at a low elevation, low enough to be audibly perceived. That's when you're prosecuting the people for the persons themselves that are flying planes and that are being prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring. You need to understand that it's demonic. The sight of the plane has nothing to do with the sound of the plane. It is as separate as the fake sun and the engineer light that's inside of Tracy Banks's apartment while the door is closed and while the door is open. This is demonic activity, and it's all demonic activity creation. So you're understanding what is the illusions by a bunch of demons that are tormenting one person whom they are stalking together. And the entity is practicing demonic activity and including planes in that pattern of conduct. So you have the demons that are admittedly flying in the sky space because you are supposed to make a connection with regard to the plane activity that you hear and the planes that you see. The entity is doing so with regard to knowledge about what I'm doing as I do it. The ongoing in concert behavior of walking by me. This is the demon gang stalking. That is the Asian male that is walking by. I've documented him gang stalking with the Ontario police, who are simultaneously driving by while the city of Ontario is simultaneously, by admission, flying by, because you can hear the plane activity, which is amplified in volume under the fake sun. That's audible activity creation. And while they're walking and driving and flying by, that's relevant positioning. This is monitoring. This is the demonic behavior that is committed by a group of demon-possessed people at one time. This is the P.O.C. while I'm documenting it at Tracy Banks's apartment. She's being prosecuted. This is a sex offender that can't control herself. This is a defendant whose mental illness is being diagnosed while her co-defendants are exhibiting the same condition as her, gang stalking me, and very foolishly doing so while they are keeping the evidence under surveillance. Very foolish and unlawful, while they are also, in other words, exhibiting severe mental illness, still exhibiting obsession with me, while their stalking conduct, their stalking system, their stalking behaviors are fully exposed. And they also know that because they're keeping the evidence about their stalking habits under surveillance, and they're still obsessively stalking me. That's what's relevant about disbanding the Ontario police. But nonetheless, this is a third party that you see simultaneously crossing path, pushing the cart. This is the Asian male. He is crossing path at the same time the Ontario police, passive aggressive means of crossing path while a demon is right in my presence, and they are one entity. They are one entity. These are demons. They have the same demonic spirit, while one is in the vehicle crossing path on Vine Avenue driving south at the same time that the demon is crossing path while the fake sun is over my head and he's walking right by me. That's called crossing path, creating light activity together, communicating a threat expressly and impliedly in the specific environment while federal stalking is underway. That is knowledge about documentation and intentionally doing so in a means that have already been exposed, meaning the police intentionally decided to gang stalk in a manner that would be obvious while I'm documenting it, and doing so in concert while the entity is doing so in concert as one entity. The entity is doing so in concert while I am capturing that specific environment. They're doing that as one, and they're doing it in sync as well. When you review the video that you just heard, the demon is walking by while the demon in the Ontario police vehicle drives by. At the same time, as I open the door, the Ontario police monitoring every move that I make. Remember, as I'm walking toward the door, as I have the door cracked open, as I open the door, all of that, you're understanding this, the engineered light that's piercing through the front door has nothing to do with the fake sun. I'm breaking down the demonic behavior, demonic spirits. The spiritual realm is evident to you in the environment that I have broken down for you. It's not sunlight that's coating everything. Sunlight doesn't create multiple shadows. Sunlight doesn't magnify the size of your shadow that should be on the ground. It should be behind you. I've shown you my upright shadow. I've shown you my shadows above my head on the outside exterior of the buildings. I've shown you my shadow that's on the ceiling inside of Tracy Banks's apartment while the doors and the windows, the blinds are closed. Where's that light coming from, and what sort of light is coming from the ground up to cause my shadow to be above me? I've shown you shadows of people's bodies while they're gang stalking outside of the apartment, and their shadows are not on the ground only, they're floating in the environment, appearing on the inside of her apartment. That's not sunlight either. They're not walking around, they're not driving around, they're not flying over me in sunlight and under the sun that's over this apartment building, the same strip of sidewalk where the people of the state with license Frank 50, Frank Ivy Victor Edward, F50 FIVE. This is the license plate of the, I believe this is an Asian male. He is gang stalking, and this is the third time he's documented gang stalking on April 7, 2025 at 2:53 p.m. with the Ontario Police Department that is utilizing helicopter, and the fake sun is shining, okay? The evidence of the fake sun that is subdued is equally probative with regard to the fake sun that is brilliantly shining, okay, with not a cloud in the sky. He will be prosecuted. He's going to federal prison for the impunity with which he is gang stalking and obsessed with me, obsessed with murdering, psychologically torturing me, and so is the entire Ontario Police Department that uses their helicopters and their police vehicles. This is the waste, the criminal misuse of resources, government resources, to engage in stalking one person. And I am a person that has not violated any law. I've committed no crime. What are the demons of the Ontario Police obsessed with? They're obsessed because they are demon possessed, number one. That's what you need to understand about their conditions. And what you are also aware of the fact that the demon possessed are inclined to very egregious criminal conduct that is terrorizing to American citizens where they are in those positions of government. This is why Jason Isaac Fields is losing his job and is losing his career in law enforcement. This is something that Jason Isaac Fields has facilitated and his facilitation includes gang stalking with Tracy Banks, who was very heavily documented. While I'm documenting and breaking down this POC with the Ontario Police, this is what she's doing when she's on her phone pacing inside of the apartment. When she's emptying her trash, walking in and out of her bedroom to the kitchen over and over and over, she's pacing. The demon's looking for, what can I do to pace around? Let me grab something. Let me load and unload something. Let me pick something up and repeatedly engage in what is nothing other than crossing path and engineer light, while the demons of the Ontario Police are monitoring me with her while she's in her apartment. She's also gang stalking while she's physically outside of her apartment. Engineer light fills her apartment. The fake sun is over her apartment, and the entity is gang stalking me while I'm at her apartment. While you see the people of the state, license F50FIVE, documented on April 7, 2025 at 2:53 p.m. under the remaining fake sun with the Ontario PD via helicopter, and documented on what is April 8th, again, with the Ontario Police by helicopter, while the entity is gang stalking at 3:04 p.m. under that fake sun that's remaining over the same sidewalk. That means 3 hours from now, like I documented on April 8, 2025, where license F50FIVE is also intentionally crossing path at the second that I open the front door with regard to maintaining activity around me, at the second that the entity is intentionally under that fake sun that's over Tracy Banks' front door, driving south on Vine Avenue, that's called crossing path, at the second that the entity is intentionally crossing path by admission, creating what is very damning audible activity creation using the sound of plane activity, where there's no planes taking off, common sense scrutiny. There's no planes that would ever be at a low elevation, low enough to even hear. That's an admission by the entity that is gang stalking via the Ontario International Airport, that has Terminal 2 and Terminal 4 at the Ontario International Airport. There is no amount of sky space where you are taking off from those terminals and at any low elevation where you're going to hear planes at all. The entity is heavily documented gang stalking throughout the city of Ontario and also in adjacent cities such as Fontana, California, where they are also engaging in the very foolish conduct of hovering in the sky space, stalking in the sky space where the fake sun is over me. That's how you're connecting what is stalking, no matter how far away that plane looks. The entity is maintaining aerial surveillance and the evidence of that environment, which is evidence of everyone stalking, gang stalking in that environment. These are demons when I'm referencing everyone. Everyone is demon possessed that's in that environment, maintaining activity around me. And like April 8th, 2025, where the same defendants, the Ontario Police Department, and the demon with license plate F50FIVE are doing under the fake sun at 3:04 p.m. The fake sun is over the same sidewalk while I am at the same apartment, and the Ontario Police Department is flying over my head in helicopter, as opposed to using the wasting city resources by gang stalking, wasting fuel, using vehicles to engage in gang stalking, while the Ontario Police are crossing path using a vehicle. Today, under the 12 p.m., excuse me, it's not quite 12 p.m., it's about to be, it's 11:42 a.m. So this is 12, 1, 2, 4 hours from now, the fake sun is over the same sidewalk, and I'll go ahead and reference that video for you, where you will see the same defendant gang stalking me with the Ontario Police Department. He is going to federal prison. His license plate, as he's documented on April 7th at 2:53 p.m. with the Ontario Police via helicopter. He's documented on April 8th at 3:04 p.m. with the Ontario Police Department via helicopter, and he's documented today on April 27, 2025, while the fake son at 11 in the morning, which is speaking to that P.O.C. And he is also going to federal prison with regard to his co-defendants that he's gang stalking with. All the old people who are stalking amongst amplified noise that fills this apartment building, as I document that at 11:42 a.m., who are intentionally living under a fake sun that is at all hours of the day and for a substantial amount of time. That's putting all of them in prison because the sun is not going to be over their apartment buildings over the same strip of sidewalk from 11 until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's also relevant to the amplified booming noise that's heard amongst the elderly that are collecting government assistance to pay their rent while they're also gang stalking with that government. They're all going to federal prison and they're monitoring evidence about them, and they engage in what is criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment while amplified booming noises fill the apartment building where a bunch of old people are going to stand in court and they're going to be absent. They're not going to have any answer as to whether or not they are creating these loud booming noises while they're on walkers, while they're feigning ignorance about the fake sun and the engineered light and the gang stalking conduct that is just coincidentally simultaneously facilitating how monitoring is executed with the police and the airport, and they are ignorant about the ongoing amplified booming inside of the apartment building where they reside. That is the demons in units 49 through 64. They are going to prison. 11:42 a.m. is where this amplified booming is heard, and this is AVANATH Capital Management's criminal engagement in that P.O.C. This is what Linda Reyes is engaging in on April 25th at 10:25 a.m. on video. This is the same sidewalk where she's gang stalking at 10:25. The sun is not going to be over the same sidewalk where the Ontario police that you see on video gang stalking today, and on the podcast you would hear me reciting that, but you can see it on video. They're crossing path gang stalking in a vehicle. At 3:04 p.m. on April 8th, they're gang stalking by helicopter, crossing path, engaging in the same elements of monitoring in that supernatural environment from 10:25 until 3:04. Let's count together. 11, 12, 1, 2, 5 hours later, the sun has not gone anywhere. And that's a matter of hard evidence. And this is the significance of a very highly imprudent, more obsessed than, and more demonic and more psychopathic than they are logical, and what is wise with regard to being defendants in federal cases against each and every last one of them individually, while they are collectively acting as an entity that is demon possessed and engaging in the system of federal group stalking and monitoring. And they are surrounded with the evidence of that fact, where amplified audible activity is activity creation in the same way that plain activity is amplified audible activity creation, where they are all simultaneously being documented as well, while the Ontario International Airport is the means of amplified noise under a fake sun that is from 11 a.m. until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you just compare the two videos that I captured today and on April 8th, where the same defendant with license F50FIVE is still gang stalking with the police, he's going to prison. All right. He is not in units 33 through 64. He is in the adjacent unit. That is, I believe, units 65 through like 80 something. He's going to prison. He is gang stalking by crossing path under the same exact fake sun that you see at 2:53 p.m. on April 7, 2025, at 3:04 p.m. on April 8, 2025, where the Ontario police is very clearly incriminating all of the same elderly demons who are going to prison and mental asylums in units 49 through 64, who are stalking in the path under engineered light, under the fake sun, while I am also documenting. It's not a coincidence with that amplified noise, which is harassing. It's psychologically harmful while they stalk me with amplified noise as a pattern of conduct, which is why you document demons. They're all going to prison. All these old folks with liver spots who put on clothing that nobody wants to see them in, and then they go pace around in disco lights with loud music, and then distracting themselves from their miserable lives. That's what Tracy Banks does as a part of this same gang stalking apartment complex. This community is engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. That's what Tracy Banks did last night, and she is gang stalking now while she is still a part of that same pattern of conduct, and she is going to be locked up for the rest of her life for repeatedly kidnapping with the very heavily documented terrorist, the Ontario Police Department. Again, Corey Watson has no desire to remain outside of federal prison, while his agency that he's employed by, while he's kidnapping on June 22nd, 2022, they are still providing evidence against him regarding what he was engaging in with malice and the intent to psychologically harm, while he is a documented kidnapper. The Ontario Police is indeed being disbanded, and the fake son that's over me from 10:25 a.m. where Linda Reyes is gang stalking on video on what is April 25th, 2025. This video that I'm capturing today during the 11 a.m. hour where the fake sun is over the top of my head. On April 8th, when you're comparing the evidence regarding the defendant that's crossing path under the fake sun that's over the top of my head, he's doing the same thing at 3:04 p.m. on April 8th, 2025 at the same apartment complex. On April 7th, 2025 at 2:53 p.m. This is evidence speaking to what could never be the sun at the same time, let alone the same time of year, contrary to what I documented, because it's on the record about what LAPD is doing, this same exact pattern of conduct with the people of the state at another apartment complex, where they are also worthy of federal prison for gang stalking as a way of life, living at that apartment complex and committing all hours of the day and night to keeping me under surveillance and psychologically torturing in the ways in which I've documented at Woodside Senior Apartments in that specific environment. Yes, indeed, they are going to federal prison in units 33 through 64. While I document amplified booming noises that people that are walking around on walkers are impossible, they're not possibly creating that. And it's also occurring pursuant to what it is that I happen to be talking about. And it happens to do with prosecuting them, documenting them. And while you document them being the demons manifest. And demons manifest with amplified noise. Demons manifest with engineered light, directed light that flies about all over the place, just floating in the air, like I've also documented. The demons manifest with regard to gang stalking through what are the most threatening means that Satan can conjure up, such as gang stalking police officers. That oxymoron is going to result in the disbanding of the Ontario Police Department. Literally by being in your presence, fully in a position to murder and then claim that you are threatening them while they are gang stalking you. I've documented that psychopathic false narrative with regard to the entity gang stalking me, and while I'm documenting them, obsessed with me, monitoring me, I have documented the demons. And let me remind you about the name of this demon who is going to federal prison, while her law enforcement agency, the Ontario Police, is consistently providing evidence against her, because she alone is going to be prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring while she is engaged in kidnapping on June 16, 2022. This is the kidnapping that I'm documenting. So let me go ahead and remind you about what is this demon's name. And she is heard on the podcast, and her audible activity is conveying the false idea that I am a threat to her when she is gang stalking me. That is the exact fact pattern that the entity is relying on when they are murdering people while they're gang stalking. The police never have any lawful authority to be in your presence in the first place. And the loss of life is directly related and reasonably foreseeable where the police are engaged in federal group stalking, monitoring when they're gang stalking. And this is what the gang stalker Hadel Shiapani, badge number 20301, is exhibiting. It's called malice. All right, where you are under all circumstances, not only with regard to the specific environment, you are literally a threat to the target individual when you are doing nothing other than gang stalking and abusing a position with law enforcement to do so by manufacturing false allegations when you're gang stalking with the people of the state, like the Ontario Police did on June 16, 2022, where they engaged in manufacturing false allegations, which then produced what is false charges, where they engaged in what is then kidnapping. Understand how those facts of the federal group stalking monitoring system escalated to a kidnapping, where the entity engaged in criminal summoning with the same gang stalking police that you see crossing path under the fake sun over these old people who are all going to prison in units 33 through 64. Hadel Shiapani, badge number 2031, is representing why the police are subject to what is federal prison and disbanding, where they are kidnapping an American citizen who's subject to federal group stalking and monitoring. Hadel Shiapani is a psychopath who is speaking as though I am threatening her when she is under all circumstances, number one, a demon who is currently bearing weapons while creating audible activity, and the substance of that audible activity is highly malicious. When she is under all circumstances aware of the fact that I've broken no law, that I am defending myself and protecting myself by capturing podcast documentation regarding the gang stalkers of the Ontario PD who are under a fake sun that's over the Ovid Family Community Library, not over Woodside Senior Apartments, contrary to what I'm documenting on April 25th, 2025, where Linda Reyes is gang stalking at 10:25 a.m. on video, where the fake sun is not over both venues. Neither could that be the case when it's over me at the same time in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens. This is how the body of evidence, the totality of circumstances, which you are always cognizant of, is used to understand and prosecute federal group stalking and monitoring. All of those facts are on record. That's what's relevant with regard to the gang stalkers who are inside of the unit. 49 through 64, where ongoing amplified audible noise is used as a means of both monitoring, and also it's like a rabies infected dog. This is how the demons show hostility. While they stalk with amplified noise, they stalk with impossible light. I've documented that plenty of times when I'm publishing evidence on the internet, and engineered light scans across Tracy Banks' ceiling. That is also not only existing in the imagination of some targeted individual that's suffering from hallucinations. That is a tragic and unjust act of defamation against a targeted individual who is subject to the demonic pattern of conduct. The people of the state in unit number 49 through 64 are going to federal prison, while the Ontario police are gang stalking, driving south on Vine Avenue under the fake sun while it is directly over the top of my head today. They are still gang stalking with the Ontario police, while the apartment building is filled with amplified booming at 11:42 and again right now at 11:52 a.m. when I am documenting and reminding you about Hadel Shiapani, who's going to federal prison, about Corey Walton, badge number 80548, who's going to federal prison while he was gang stalking on June 16, 2022 and committed the federal offense of what is domestic terrorism and obstruction of justice by kidnapping as an entity. That's gang stalking. And they're still gang stalking, the Ontario police, and Paul Leon is still gang stalking while they're using police vehicles, and as the documentation shows, they're still using helicopters to engage in state surveillance against an American citizen who has fully exposed it, and I have also committed no crime. The two do not coexist. If there were any crime committed, then this would be the result of some sort of interrogation. There would be some sort of arrest for a crime that I've committed. I've documented a pattern of conduct of stalking me from city to city, county to county by helicopters, and I've committed no crime. The entity is engaging in what is obstruction of justice, where they are gang stalking me and then kidnapping when you're engaging in that criminal offense of federal group stalking and monitoring. And a lot of old people at Woodside are going to prison for it. The same demons that are inside of the same building where amplified booming noise, which is referred to as criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, where they will also be prosecuted for stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act, where they are stalking an occupant where they reside. Because that's what they're doing, gang stalking at a facilitating venue with the police, with the residents together, and with the employees of AVANATH. Okay, what I'm doing right now is I'm legally analyzing all the facets of that P.O.C, which is speaking to also a string of evidence, what's going on in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens amongst the state, the LAPD, and the people of the state, what's going on with regard to the body of evidence regarding a documented kidnapping that's at the same time happening under the specific environment, which Linda Reyes is in that specific environment, which is not coexisting with the kidnapping that happened at the same time of year at the Ovid Family Community Library, where the same corrupt gang stalking agency, the Ontario Police, committed a kidnapping on June 16, 2022. The entity is also juxtaposing evidence with regard to the pattern of stalking with amplified light and amplified audible activity and impossible light activity, while I document and reference things that are very highly damning and probative. The demons that are indeed engaged in federal stalking engage in such terrorizing and harassing behaviors, which is also why they're going to federal prison, because they're engaging in what is federal stalking, that is keeping the evidence of their unprecedented criminal conduct under surveillance while they're still obsessively stalking and monitoring. This is indeed the evidence that's going to both diagnose and prosecute. And this is all relevant to Tracy Banks, that's walking out of the apartment and molesting me with impossible light activity, a very highly imprudent act, and the demons that equally lack in self-control and wisdom, foresight, all right, lacking any sort of insight regarding how you should behave and perhaps what you should stop doing when you're going to face that evidence that you are forgetting, but the federal court's not going to forget. And I have been very diligent to make sure no one forgets what has already been committed in an environment in a manner that is irreconcilable. You can't erase the documentation of the specific environment. You can't erase the previously documented acts of kidnapping. You cannot erase the documentation of years of what is nothing other than gang stalking by the irretrievable reputation of what is corrupt and suspect everything that the Ontario Police Department is doing. And that's apart from federal group stalking and monitoring. They are so heavily documented. So heavily documented that every time you see the Ontario Police, you already know that they are engaged in the P.O.C. That is the imprudent behavior of the elderly people that are gang stalking. Again, license license F50FIVE, gang stalking with the Ontario Police, just like he is doing on April 7th and April 8th with the Ontario Police at 2:53 p.m. on April 7th and at 3:04 p.m. on April 8th. And the fake sun, which you will also see, that you see today during the 11 a.m. hour, is still over the same sidewalk over me at the same apartment complex at 2:53 and 3:04 p.m. That's relevant to the demons inside of the apartment building who are also gang stalking. Like the video shows that I captured today, but like the amplified audible activity also shows, while they're engaged in federal stalking together. They're all going to federal prison for gang stalking as a way of life, while the elderly population are fully engaged in the statewide P.O.C, a federal group stalking and monitoring, and Satan does not discriminate by age. All right, Satan does not discriminate by race either. I want to be clear. He will use anybody of any age, of any income bracket, of any race as well. Satan wants people to be divided and wants you to discriminate and be prejudiced with regard to race, and which is nothing other than division and reliance upon ignorance. That's a demonic spirit. And it has nothing to do with what people are actually doing and with regard to what they actually are, which is either walking in darkness, and the demon possessed are very unified. I've shown all colors of the rainbow gang stalking. I've shown those that are engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they are under no circumstances dividing themselves with regard to, well, I'm not going to gang stalk my black sister, or I'm not going to gang stalk with this black person over there because no. That's how ignorant Satan wants you to be. The demon possessed are very unified. They're unified in spirit, and they're engaging in an identical pattern of conduct. Identical pattern of conduct. And they are under no circumstances divided by race or divided by income bracket or divided by any sort of age discrimination bases, the old people, the young people, the black people, the white people, the Asian people, the Latino people. The immigrant population, they're gang stalking. They're demon possessed. It's the same entity that's engaging in that. You need to understand what unifies them in its spirit. Things such as race, those are superficial veneers used to distract from what Satan is doing. They're distractions. They're all distractions. I want to make sure, and this is not to state that racism isn't real. That's not what I'm stating. And don't be ignorant about who is speaking. I am a black woman, not ignorant about the reality of racism. What I am speaking to is that it is insufficient to stop there. This is demonic. And we are all spirit, regardless of what color your shell is. So with regard to the reality of racism, you need to understand what the demon possessed of all races are engaging in. It's federal group stalking and monitoring. So your so-called black brothers and sisters, they're demons that are gang stalking in California. I said exactly what it is that I said. I said exactly what I said. I'm going to say it again. The black people in California are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring against myself, a black woman. It has nothing to do with race. The demon possessed are engaging in what is using race, while that's a spirit, that's a demonic spirit. That is of Satan, period. And so a lot of this conversation about what is racism and the challenges that are going to have real life effect in the world and in the United States with regard to the institution of racism and the institution of slavery and the historical facts that surround that. We're not ignorant about that. You're not going to disregard that. That's a reality. And those are challenges that are, again, unjust. Absolutely. But what I'm speaking to is the underlying cause, something that nobody wants to talk about, the reality of God, Christ Jesus himself. It's demonic. So that is Satan that hates man, that's made in God's image. And this is something that is causing division amongst man. It is caused by Satan. It's satanic with regard to any means of what is dividing mankind. It's merely the stamp of God's glory for us to be made in different colors and hues, like eye color and hair texture and whatnot. It's nothing other than Satan. It's a distraction. It literally is. It's a distraction. And I've documented people black as night, black as the asphalt, gang stalking me. And I've documented so-called affluent white people, white as lilies, obsessed with me, gang stalking me, with the reality of this system of racism, this false notion of superiority, which is only in the minds of those who are deceived. Both those who engage in and entertain the notion of these superiority complex with regard to those who are racist, as though blacks are inferior to any other race, let alone white people. They've been deceived by Satan. That's a demonic spirit. That's spirit of deception. In the same way that those that succumb to that system of racism, it is very likely when you are suffering from being subject to racism systematically, that you also adopt a lot of those false notions, even accepting the notion of inferiority, or even adapting racist ideals that all white people are racist as well. That's the same spirit. It's the same spirit. Okay, it's operating in a different fashion because you're for example, someone that's of color still adopting that same notion. You understand that is rooted in a demonic spirit. So I'm going to leave that alone. But with regard to the reality of federal group stalking and monitoring, black folks, white folks, Asian folks, Latino folks, all of them gang stalking. The demon possessed are united. Satan is relying on all of us to be ignorant and to be fractured and separated, divided. Okay, that's just the reality. And when the root cause is Satan himself, it's demonic. It's wicked. That's where it comes from. That's what it's inspired by. And it's rooted. You have to be ignorant in order to feed into it in the first place. And I am speaking as a black woman who is not ignorant about the reality and the struggles inherent to racism. I don't define myself by it, though, and I'm not somebody that's so privileged that I've never had to suffer. And no, I have not been a slave. I wasn't living during that time, but I am under no circumstances ignorant to the challenges of being categorized and discriminated against based on the color of my skin. But that didn't stop me from going to college, from going to law school, from breaking all of the stereotypes that are existing for black women, which I find personally detestable. I don't have a BBL. A lot of the things that they attribute promiscuity to black women, to being, and then there are a lot of those. A lot of the things that are very unflattering with regard to the black generation altogether. But not every black person is ignorant. Not every black person lacks education. Not every black person comes from the hood. Not every black person is speaking Ebonics. These are, again, racist ideas that are intentionally put out to keep other people ignorant. That would feed into that. But also to keep a people that believes that accepts it, to keep them oppressed. That is all rooted in it's spiritual at the core. Like I said, there are a lot of ways in which, again, demonic conduct, demonic activity is not only exposed in what is federal group stalking, monitoring criminal conduct, but it's also rooted in what is conditioning the minds of those that are consuming information that is literally intentionally put out, what we're consuming on social media, what we're consuming on television, what we're consuming amongst each other, how we are affected by each other. A lot of this is you're not even paying attention to. A lot of times I know you are convinced that you're paying attention. What are you talking about? I am paying attention. I look very closely. I analyze. I watch CNN News, and I'm listening to all of the pundits give both sides. I even watch Fox News, and I get both political slants. That's not what I'm talking about. Sure, that's great that you're not ignorant in that regard, but a lot of this is with regard to the spiritual realm, which no one is talking about. No one wants to reference the reality of Christ Jesus. The knowledge of God brings forth a lot of wisdom and insight regarding what is the root cause of the things that are going on. Okay. And so with like I've shown with regard to the P.O.C, a lot of what's capable of occurring is relying on your ignorance. You have to be ignorant about the specific environment to have no indication about what's going on. And literally, Satan is counting on, and this is what you need to know. This is why I document and expose so much. Satan is literally relying on you being an outright dunce, like a straight ignoramus. This is a projection. These demons are very highly unintelligent. A whole league of them, a whole team. Millions. The entity's been documenting millions of people. As I go from city to city, every neighborhood, every street light, every freeway that I'm on, gang stalking. And all of them together, totally inferior. This is a projection of the inferiority of Satan himself. inferior to Christ Jesus. There is no amount of demons that are going to supersede the power of Christ, the Holy Spirit, at all, ever. It's not a numbers game. That's what Satan is relying on, however. He is counting on ignorance. If he can keep you dumb, if he can keep you blind, then he can get you. That's all that relies on. It's literally relying on ignorance. So anyway, I just want to speak to that. The entity is amplifying audible activity inside of the apartment building while I am speaking to very damning evidence. I'm going to digress right now. It's 12:07 p.m. The video evidence regarding the fake sun that's remaining over me, as I documented on April 7th and April 8th. This is relevant to the Ontario Police crossing path driving on south on Vine Avenue during the 11 a.m. hour. That's the significance of what you previously heard in the video and what you can see. I'm going to upload that. You'll see the fake sun, albeit subdued. It is an equally fake sun that cannot also at the same time of year, at the same time, be over me in Los Angeles, where LAPD is gang stalking, like the city of Ontario is gang stalking. It's a statewide P.O.C. that is reliant upon a demon-possessed and corrupt population, while I am exposing what is public corruption. This is the pattern of conduct where the entity is under that fake sun. This is exposing Linda Reyes, who's going to federal prison under that fake sun over this sidewalk on April 25th at 10:25 a.m. This is exposing all the defendants in units 33 to 64 who are gang stalking under that fake sun with the Ontario police, like they were doing on April 7th and on April 8th, with the same defendant that's intentionally crossing path, has not gotten enough of gang stalking me, is worthy of federal prison. That's where he's going. The documentation, what is now, we're on count 3, where he is personally documented gang stalking with the same corrupt agency that is using their vehicles and helicopters to stalk and monitor me. The Ontario police is obsessed with me because they're full of demons. You need to understand how it is a threat to the public, those that are in darkness, the demon-possessed working for law enforcement. It is a national security threat. That's why they're spending man hours, hundreds of hours, ceaseless surveillance. I have not violated any law. You are aware of that. You're not just driving by on the street under the fake sun in concert with the entity that's living under this fake sun when you're driving south on Vine Avenue in Ontario Police. And the Ontario Police is so heavily documented, they don't even have a legitimate leg to stand on. But nonetheless, the legal analysis is in that same manner. Everything is deliberate with regard to that specific environment. The airport's not taking off, the planes are not taking off from the airport over Woodside Senior Apartments. It's intentional activity creation. Activity creation includes maintaining traffic, which is crossing path, patrolling. All they're doing is monitoring. They're very highly intelligent. Satan is relying on your ignorance, like I said. Relying on your ignorance, and that is taking form in many ways regarding the things that you consume, regarding the ideas, the notions that you accept as true. What really is true, what needs to be known is that the word of God is true. And the prosecution of the state of California is evidence of that. The word of God is true. God will not be mocked. That's so whatever a man sows, he shall also reap. It is impossible. There is no act of witchcraft. There is no amount of demons that can engage in any sort of voodoo or summoning of demonic spirits that's going to avert or circumvent that. You're not ducking and dodging anything. It is impossible. Christ Jesus is King. He is Lord of all. There is none beside him. He is embarrassing Satan and all of his employees, his demons, that include the Ontario Police Department. Mike Lorenz and every other demon under his corrupt leadership, they are done with law enforcement. They're done. They have proven themselves to be a national security threat, keeping innocent American citizens under surveillance for no legitimate purpose. You're not flying in the sky space where the fake sun is remaining at every hour of the day, engaging in anything other than gang stalking. And not only are you not doing that innocently or coincidentally, or with regard to ignorance, you're doing that pursuant to knowledge about what that person that you are gang stalking is documenting about it. They're being disbanded for engaging in a pattern of kidnapping. Next, the entity is engaging in gang stalking, which Paul Leon is engaged in. He's done. He's been engaged in federal group stalking monitoring for 20 years. His time in office has long expired. This is also supporting what no mayor in California should be able to do. You should not be in office for 20 years, period. With regard to public corruption, again, this is akin to some sort of dictatorship where you are targeting an American citizen that is exposing you and using the corrupt offices within the local government to target me, knowing exactly who I am. Paul Leon is monitoring, clocking my genitalia in the bathroom inside of this apartment building. All right, he's doing so while he's aware of every time that I utter his name. This is speaking to what no mayor should, this is requiring a change. I understand it's not the presidency where you're limited to 2 terms in office. However, Paul Leon's long overdue remaining, and not only that has he been in office too long, he's corrupt. This is public corruption that has gone on for far too long. And he is a template, an example as to why that needs to change. The mayor should not be in office for more than 2 terms. So the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and Paul Leon, who has been engaged in federal groups public corruption for 20 years, every single day he's been in office, federal group stalking and monitoring has been underway. This is what Derek Williams was doing before Mike Lorenz is engaging in the same pattern of conduct. That's not a coincidence. This is a system of public corruption that Mike Lorenz is engaging in with knowledge that Paul Leon is a gang stalking mayor, permitting, relying on, acting in concert with the gang stalking police department. That's what's relevant with regard to a whole bunch of old people gang stalking an apartment complex in the city. All right. It is currently, I'm going to go ahead and digress. And the entity that is gang stalking with the relevant video documentation, Linda Reyes gang stalking on April 25th at 10:25 a.m. on video, relevant to what is gang stalking under the fake sun that still remains at on April 8, 2025 at 3:04 p.m. on April 7, 2025 at 2:53 p.m., which is a negligible difference with regard to time, but I'm pointing out the duration of time. Linda Reyes is nothing other than one demon-possessed person who's engaged in that P.O.C. where the fake sun is remaining over the same side. Well, that's supernatural. That supernatural environment is speaking to the system that she's engaging in while she's collecting a paycheck. She's going to prison. She's going to prison for that. And she's acting with impunity, harassing me, psychologically torturing me with this sex offender Tracy Banks and with all the rest of these old people gang stalking in the building where amplified noise is ongoing as I document them, as the losers are witnessing their own exposure and they're mad, like rabies-infected dogs foaming at the mouth. So they're barking at me via amplified noise that fills the apartment building. Okay, this is video documentation that is in order to give you an example of looking at the duration of time where the Ontario Police is very intentionally and knowingly crossing path, not just coincidentally driving by on the street. That's what's happening in a natural environment where everybody is actually minding their business, going about their day, not actually knowing what it is that I'm saying and every move that I'm making inside of the apartment that's filled with engineered light under a fake sun that's present at every hour of the day during the day. No, the Ontario Police is crossing path, and the Ontario Police, again, the same demonic spirit, lacking self-control, lacking prudence and wisdom, lacking any reasoning skills, engage in that admission of against the people of the state. That's their co-defendant. Okay, and that's also the highest threat. And the same defendant, license F50FIVE, he's going to prison. He's in all 3 videos, April 7th at 2:53 p.m. under the fake sun, April 8th at 3:04 p.m. under the fake sun with the Ontario Police, and today at 11. Let me give you again the timestamp of the video. This is the video captured today at what is 11:15 a.m. under the fake sun that's over my head. So at 11:15 a.m., the sun is never going to be over the same strip of sidewalk like it is with the Ontario Police gang stalking by helicopter at 3:04 p.m. where that same demon with license F50FIVE is intentionally crossing path, monitoring me, gang stalking me, knows that I documented him before. You are aware of all of that. You're aware of what they know that I'm doing as they engage in activity creation. And these demons also know that I've already documented the fact that they're obsessively stalking me. He's going to federal prison. All right. And he is gang stalking with the police, and he's gang stalking with all the demons that are going to prison and mental asylums in units 33 through 64. And this is all starting with what is Tracy Banks, who's molesting me with engineer light, while this sex offender exits her apartment at 10:50 a.m. And the engineer light that's on her ceiling at 10:52 a.m., which you will see on the Google Drive, has nothing to do with the fake sun that's outside. It's impossible light activity, and so is everything that's covering all of the property where the demons are walking by and driving by. They're all on the stage, very poor actors, gang stalking. Where you have a gang stalking police department that is engaging in what is a pattern of kidnapping as well, that police department is being disbanded, and justice requires that. Where you have what is a gang stalking mayor that is engaging in what is using all of that municipality's offices to engage in facilitation of federal group stalking and monitoring and direct engagement of federal group stalking and monitoring, that mayor is being removed from office. Justice requires it. Okay, the entity is engaged in what is kidnapping by the fire department as well, and American Medical Response. Michael Gherkin is no newbie with regard to federal group stalking, monitoring, criminal summoning. Have you seen these demons crossing path under the fake sun in the middle of the afternoon? Okay, Michael Gherkin is no legitimate fire chief. He is to be removed from, since he can't just mind his business and put out fires when it is actually calling for, he wants to engage in domestic terrorism. He wants to facilitate that, hire a bunch of demons that are not actually interested in putting out fires. What they are actually engaged in is federal group stalking, monitoring, and they happen to use water hoses to put out fires when the occasion calls for that. But they are using their position as a fire department to engage in federal group stalking, monitoring. That's why he's done with being engaged in what is firefighting. And the fire department engaging in what is kidnapping is a basis to remove that fire department. The entire city of Ontario is corrupt and so heavily documented. A template for understanding how federal group stalking and monitoring is happening throughout the cities in the state of California, which is relevant to what is the specific environment in the United States and how it's executed by the states in this country. All right, it is currently 12:18 p.m. This is documentation of a lot, not only federal group stalking and monitoring, but facilitation of federal group stalking and monitoring, criminal obstruction of justice by the entity that's also engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. The entity that is gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments in concert with the city of Ontario, that's the government, that is also engaging in with the civilian population that does not reside at the apartment complex. All of the entity that is, including the residents, are stalking and violation of the Violence Against Women Act while the system of gang stalking is underway at Woodside Senior Apartments, where they are stalking an occupant at the facilitating venue, which is literally the apartment complex, which is in that specific environment. The entity is acting with impunity and is acting with the intent to engage in psychological torture. Okay, it is currently, again, 12:19 p.m. This is P.O.C. It is currently, as you can see, it's 8:31 p.m. And this is documentation capturing the engineer light that fills Tracy Banks' apartment. If I can pick it up, let's see. That is engineer light. As the door is opening and closing, that's light activity. And it's also the absence of a coincidence while I'm capturing footage inside of the apartment. But nonetheless, that's impossible light activity on the wall. And there's nothing that's happening outside, no light fixtures outside. So let me show you. Just like nothing is going to create your shadow upright at night, this light outside is not going to pierce through, just like sunlight's not going to pierce through and shoot through the apartment. And as I'm inside of the apartment capturing footage, it's not a coincidence, it's activity creation, just like during the day under the fake sun, that the defendant enters, creating activity which is monitoring the evidence, which is knowledge pursuant to everything that's happening in the apartment. That's the behavior that is psychopathic of a gang stalker that you also are related to. It's 8:34 p.m. and the communication device is monitoring. It's Daniel Ackery. He's very heavily documented. This is P.O.C. And this is engineer light. This is what I'm taking pictures of. I documented this in Alvarado Gardens inside of my apartment. At nightfall, engineer light filled my apartment. That evidence is already captured. And what I'm taking pictures of is this door. This is psychopathic. They're monitoring. It's not a conversation. But the engineer light was on this door. It's on this door. And it was on the kitchen wall over here, and it's shooting horizontally just like I captured during the day. The engineer light that moves across the wall, the engineer light wall, again, the same phone conversation activity on the, like nothing's happening. Pacing in the engineer light that's shooting in the apartment through the peephole, just on the phone, having a speakerphone conversation, pacing, clapping, and laughing, which is monitoring in the engineer light, okay? The engineer light that you saw while opening the front door is impossible light activity. None of the light fixtures outside is going to create the shape of the door inside of the depths of the apartment. This is indeed monitoring, and it's psychopathic while you're doing so to your own relatives as well. It's also psychopathic when you're doing so and you know that it's being documented to prosecute you and everybody that's gang stalking with you. It is currently 8:35 p.m. And this is again captured in one of the images that I took, whether or not it is picking up or not, but I'm going to keep this video because the interference, that's activity creation. That's a psychopath that's monitoring, but I want you to look at what is, everything that's happening is accomplishing and focused on monitoring me. All right, not getting a cold beverage, not even actually enjoying a phone conversation, including the demon that is on the phone. This is the engineer light that's right here at 8:32 p.m. That's this bedroom door. This bedroom door has light coming through, shooting horizontally on here. That's what this is right here. The demon walks into the apartment, aware of what it is that I'm doing, a psychopath that is monitoring me in my sleep as well. This is the same psychopath that has the heavy helicopter activity while I'm here at this apartment that has the fake sun rising and setting at her apartment. This is a psychopath that's in their apartment monitoring. It is 8:32 p.m. where you can see this image right here of the light that I'm zooming in on so you can see it. That is this door right here. This door right here that has light that is, again, too dark to pick up, so capturing a screen recording, taking pictures of it, and then looking at the picture is the best way for my camera to try to pick it up. And this is documentation that I've captured with regard to what is already established engineer light, and I've already established the impossible light activity that's outside. So let me remind you about that. While the demon uses beating the bag of ice as audible activity, it's speaking to mental illness. Here is my shadow that's upright. This is impossible light activity. The person that's on the phone is gang stalking and focused on me. This is the impossible light activity. This is the third shadow right here. 1, 2, 3. And Tracy Banks is a psychopath that's outside of the apartment, knows what I'm doing inside of the apartment just like everyone else does, and is coming in monitoring. And when you open up the door, the shape of the door is creating light on the inside of the apartment. That's what I documented. That's impossible light activity as well, which is, again, the same engineer light that's happening at nightfall. The shadow of the rail is above. That's engineer light. The shadow of the tree is on the building behind it. That's engineer light. This is the same light activity that's happening while the fake sun is rising and setting here. And this is Tracy Banks entering into monitor. P.O.C. This is stalking with engineer light, which is pursuant to monitoring and surveillance, and that is underway using a communication device, entering the apartment and doing so. The people of the state are documented by name, and this is documentation of malice and impunity, and the criminal conduct of federal group stalking monitoring is going to be used to diagnose. the entity that is gang stalking as well. It is currently 8:38 p.m. This is P.O.C.